Minister, these past weeks and months have shown the best attributes of the Irish people and demonstrated beyond doubt that we are a caring and empathetic nation. From the first instances of COVID-19, frontline staff across the country took on the challenge of doing all in their power to preserve well-being, while supporting industries ensured continuation of our supply and distribution chains in food, energy and allied care services. Government announced significant funding to support the reallocation of health services and to provide business and welfare support payments as the lockdown period became a reality. How noble we as a people might appear in rising so stoically to such a challenge. And yet, Minister, we have in our midst families who struggle every day to manage difficult and sometimes impossible care burdens as a result of their children exhibiting the most challenging behaviour with complex learning needs. These children require significant and sometimes specialist educational intervention. This summer's educational programme is a vital support for such families and children, Minister, as they struggle to maintain their place within the learning curriculum. I welcome any efforts of your department as directing towards the programme this year. You might comment shortly on the possible staff resourcing that will accompany it. Notwithstanding this year's July provision programme, Minister, can I highlight to you the challenges facing schools where such specialist teaching interventions are required, which are increasing in ever greater number. The numbers of early going and even secondary school children with behavioural issues who are perhaps deemed to be on the autistic spectrum are increasing. Catering to these pupil needs requires resources from your department, Minister, but in many cases resources provided are not adequate to the needs presenting at these schools. Many schools are reduced to 2 or 3 possible psychological assessments of students in any one calendar year under the National Educational Psychological Service, or NEPS. Many parents are forced to consider private psychological assessment because of the 2-year wait time in NEPS service, but this private assessment may be considered as an invalid reference for the Special Educational Needs Officer, or SENO, whose role it is to allocate special needs assistant hours to pupils meeting the department criteria. I have spoken to 2 sets of parents recently, Minister, who have gone through this process where the evaluating person who gave the assessment, it was considered invalid because it wasn't through NEPS, and yet they are qualified to give NEPS and do give NEPS reports. Indeed, schools that I have been in contact with have reported that their SENO allocates a total number of hours and leaves it to school management to decide how these hours are to be distributed. This is wholly unsatisfactory situation, Minister, with NEPS psychologist numbers being grossly understaffed and with many SENOs acting more like accountants than childcare experts when considering the allocation of SNA resources. Not alone are the allocation hours of SNAs inadequate in many schools, but also no provision has been made to provide sensory rooms for younger age groups in many schools, which are a significant component of teaching, instruction and socialisation activity for such children. I have met many parents who are at their wits' end in terms of trying to secure an evaluation of their child, as well as the necessary school resourcing to ensure that their child can remain in mainstream education and can acquire sufficient learning to achieve to their full potential. I have no doubt too, Minister, that your email inbox has many requests and examples of such situations. And I would ask that your department adopt a similar proactive response to that which has been marshalled against the threat of COVID-19, so that our schools and teachers can deliver a frontline standard of education that addresses the needs of those who most need it. Also, as part of your schools portfolio, Minister, can you update the House on your thoughts regarding the planned status of school secretaries? As you know, many school secretaries work for meagre wages and cannot avail of sick leave or pension rights. How can we value our teaching establishments if we cannot value those who are intrinsic to the service delivery and offer, those who care, who support teaching management and who contribute so much to safe school services? These are frontline staff too, Minister, frontline staff who have been conveniently pushed to the background and overlooked. They say it takes a village to raise a child, Minister. It is time now to provide equitable pay to these villagers who do so much to oversee the safe and cherished care of all of our children. In discussing the equity and economic benefits of providing educational support for all of our students, Waterford, Minister, can I highlight that Waterford remains the only city region without a university. The economic consequences of the South East regional brain drain were plain to see long before COVID-19 arrived in Ireland. Without this strategic component delivered, this region will remain an economic outlier in the country for years to come. A South East University was flagged as an essential component of your government's 2040 development programme. It has not seen the focused attention of your department, which is required to solve the roadblocks in the proposed TU amalgamation process. I, like many others, look on at the ability of your department to assist the Munster TU programme with capital supports and industrial relations expertise, while reflecting on the facts that one of the highest functioning institutes of technology in the country, which is Waterford Institute of Technology, has not received a capital funding programme in over 15 years. I might also add that a refurbishment programme requested for over 3 years has still failed to materialise. I know change is possibly coming to the seat that you occupy, Minister, but I would ask before vacating it that you set this as a priority project for completion by your department seniors and to be completed in the shortest time possible. Soaring rhetoric on the educational and economic imperatives of this project are no substitute for capital monies invested on the ground, Minister, to make it a reality. I would welcome your comments to all. Thank you.
I would like to thank the Deputy for his contribution, and just at the question around resources that will go into the summer programme. Obviously, as it's a demand-led scheme and it's based on volunteerism, but to give you the figures, last year the July provision cost just over €16 million. So we're looking at an expanded scheme this year, bringing in other groups, and we'll be looking to add significantly to that €16 million investment. So resources, in terms of financial resources, will certainly not be a barrier in relation to this new summer programme. But where the challenge lies is in terms of the supply of schools, in terms of school openings, and obviously teachers and tutors coming forward, and availability of SNAs. But on that point, teachers and SNAs have been so engaged, and I know you obviously hold SNAs in very high regard in terms of your contribution there, and I agree with you wholeheartely. There's 17,000 SNAs in this country, and they're just the epicentre of every school, and every student knows them by their first name and on a very personal basis. And certainly the new the report that was completed during my term as Minister, in terms of what needs to be done for SNAs, in terms of status, in terms of making sure they get the proper professional qualification, proper recognition, those recommendations need to be implemented, because they're really important. You also mentioned school secretaries. This is something I campaigned for when I was in opposition on that side of the House, Deputy, and it's something that I wanted to see brought to a conclusion during my term. It didn't happen, but we have at the moment the school secretaries and caretakers issue is with the WRC, and I'm hoping that progress can be made. But obviously that's going to be a budgetary decision for an incoming government, and these are the series of choices. But just to agree with you in terms of the secretaries, the role and the responsible role, and the somebody pointed out here in a previous debate, they're the glue of the school, and they're really important. The priority for the South East region and the university status, we're on the same page there, whether it's a university for the South East or a university for the North West. If we're going to be really in a space of focus in terms of regional development, we need to have a university in the South East. I've spoken to the officials in the higher education section of the department in the last couple of weeks, and there is momentum there at the minute. The application is getting ready, and I believe that we'll be in a strong position for the university in the South East towards the end of the year.